Welcome everyone to History Gone Wilder, part of Have History Will Travel. I'm your host, the Wilder historian, Dr. Lucas Wilder, and last time I covered the engagements north of the James River. Now Ulysses S. Grant implements a plan to capture the Boydton Plank Road, severing Robert E. Lee's supply lines using that road and the South Side Railroad. If you like what I do, please consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already, join the Patreon page, and purchase something from one of my online stores. Every little bit helps. Thank you. On October 19, 1864, Union General Philip Sheridan snatched victory from the jaws of defeat and successfully threw back Confederate General Jubal Early, whom Robert E. Lee sent to the Shenandoah Valley to secure the supplies from that region for the Confederacy. The Battle of Cedar Creek, happening over 100 miles from the siege lines at Richmond and Petersburg, had a significant impact on that front, not just for the Confederacy, but for the Union. Ulysses S. Grant believed that the victory over Early would result in Lee bringing those troops to bolster his withering forces around the capital. Not only that, Grant feared that the siege would bog down into a stalemate and time was not on his side. Sheridan supplied President Abraham Lincoln with a victory, and the month before, William T. Sherman had captured Atlanta. This would help the Lincoln administration win a victory in the November election. Grant didn't want to threaten Lincoln's victory by remaining idle and allowing peace Democrats in the North to claim Grant's efforts had slowed and push for peace with the Confederacy. Time was not on Grant's side because winter was approaching and soon the roads would be too muddy to launch any more offensives. Grant decided to quickly launch an offensive before winter set in an effort to capture the Boydton Plank Road and the South Side Railroad. Those two transportation routes supplied Lee with needed foodstuffs and other supplies. Grant called his two army commanders together, Benjamin Butler and George Meade. He began to outline his plans for an offensive, and he needed both men's efforts to make it successful. Grant's chief engineer examined the far Union left flank and informed him that he would need 40,000 men to attack and capture the road and railroad. Divisions from the 2nd, 5th, and 9th Corps were chosen from Meade's Army of the Potomac to make the main attack. Butler was to take both the 18th Corps and 10th Corps to make a strong demonstration north of the James River against Richmond's defenses. Grant hoped that this would, as in previous offensives, prevent Lee from moving troops to resist the main attack on the Boydton Plank Road. Grant stripped his trenches of available troops in order to launch this offensive on the Union left. As parts of 3 Union corps assembled on the left, Butler's Army of the James began moving into place north of the James River, coming out of their position near Deep Bottom to launch an attack on the new Confederate defensive line proposed by Confederate artilleryman Edward Porter Alexander. By the early morning of October 27th, part of Butler's force was in place to attack the entrenched Confederates. Their skirmishers pushed in the enemy skirmishers, but the rest of the force was late getting to their positions. The 18th Corps, now commanded by Godfrey Watzel, didn't get to their positions until early afternoon. Watzel was born in Bavaria, immigrated to the United States as a young boy, grew up in Cincinnati, and graduated from West Point Military Academy, becoming an accomplished engineer. For most of the war he operated under Butler in Louisiana, and then came east with Butler to be in the Army of the James. The Confederates watched every move of the 18th Corps and moved 3 brigades to the left of the line to block the approaching Yankees. 1 brigade from Gilman Marston's division and Charles Heckman's division attacked the Confederate line between 3:30 and 4 p.m. A member of Harrison Fairchild's brigade remembered, "Every man started with a cheer, the Grape and Canister flying around us like hail, but they reserved their infantry until we got within about 30 rods of their fort, when they opened on us, and such a deadly fire never was opened on a lot of men as that was. Such cries and groans was then sent up as men fell to the right and left with cries of mercy. There were gaps cut in the ranks of our regiment the width of 6 men." Another recalled, "When we got within musket range of the fort, there was no describing the fire we were under. Notwithstanding the havoc, we kept on till some were within 30 rods of the fort. What there was left fell flat on the ground and lay there as thin as possible. If a man stirred to make an attempt to get away, he would get a score at least of bullets at him in an instant." To the north, John Holman's USCT brigade attacked a cavalry force along the 9-mile road and began to make headway until more rebel cavalry came to the scene and threw back the blue troops. To the south, parts of Adelbert Ames and Robert Foster's divisions of the 10th Corps approached the dug-in Confederates, with Joseph Abbott's brigade moving to the right and then testing the rebel works. All of those attacks ended in defeat for the Federal troops. A member of the 100th New York commented, "Each division general along the line would have been delighted to have found a weak place on their front and earned a star by a successful assault. But no, all that could be done would be add to hospital numbers with hundreds of wounded." The Army of the James lost nearly 800 troops that day, and the Confederacy lost very few in comparison. But this wasn't the main attack. Grant hoped that Butler could turn the Confederates' flank, but this was a distraction to keep Lee from sending troops to the Confederate right, the Boydton Plank Road, where Grant's massive assault would take place this same day.